Welcome to day 3 of the conference, and for those of us working on local immigration partnerships, the beginning of our 2 days of collaboration together. A special recognition and thank you to Vicky, Katie, Sonali, and all of the Pathways to Prosperity team for their 10-year milestone of the Pathways to Prosperity Conference. Thank you for your commitment and support in providing our Canada-wide sector collaboration opportunities and opportunities to learn, grow, and connect. Today, I'm honored to support Patricia, Bridget, and Jodi at this plenary called Collaboration Among Lips, Among RIFs, and Between RIFs and Lips. I would like to invite them to join me here on the stage. We'll be shortly moving to their presentations. Bridget was delayed due to the storm, and they will be Zooming her in. We would first like to acknowledge our sponsor for this plenary, New Canadians. They have prepared a short video for us.
Hello and welcome to New Canadians. For today's episode, we're in Thunder Bay, Temiskaming Shores, Guelph, Ontario, and we can be in your community too. On TV and online, New Canadians connects newcomers and would-be immigrants to trusted resources and information about settlement supports, employment opportunities, business prospects, and much more to help them build a better and successful life in Canada.
I learned about New Canadians as an opportunity to promote our area. New Canadians was the perfect opportunity to extend our reach into different marketplaces, to offer insight into the places where you can live, work, and play outside of Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal.
New Canadians came to Sarnia and Lambton to feature a number of entrepreneurial and employment opportunities. New Canadians came with a wealth of experience working with newcomers and immigrants and making sure that they are featured well across Canada.
We at Guelph Wellington Local Immigration Partnership partnered with the New Horizons Media to produce videos about Guelph and Wellington. In addition to the perfect videos we got the extra advantage of having those videos broadcasted on the New Canadians TV.
We did our research and we noticed that New Canadians had a really good approach with newcomers and immigrants. Traditional media didn't have that same reach as New Canadians TV does.
It is a multi-platform opportunity, so not only do you get the national television opportunity through Omni TV, but you also get the social media platform, you get the YouTube channel as well, so you're getting that global audience in a multifaceted approach.
Some questions we often receive from central-arrived immigrants in Canada are, where should I land? Which region offers me a job in my field? Which neighborhood has good schools for my kids? We also know that provinces and territories want newcomers to settle in their region and offer them resources to support them. That's why we launched Destination Canada, a special section that acts as an information bridge between newcomers and various communities of Canada.
It highlights the daily life that a newcomer would encounter when they move to the city, how to get to work for shopping, entertainment, jobs, healthcare, and other amenities that a newcomer might need.
New Canadians offer the opportunity for us to approach this systematically, where we could highlight in a segment, or we could do an episode takeover, and we would be able to tell the story of our community. And so we've had the opportunity to work with New Canadians to ensure that stories that we're presenting, we're highlighting exactly what we're about in the county of Renfrew.
We visit different cities and counties, showcase what they have to offer to newcomers, talk to residents to learn about the housing, settlement, employment, and business opportunities and supports available, and learn more about what makes the region welcoming to newcomers.
We are also on board with our partners to continue this relationship on an annual basis, where we're able to continue to tell the stories of our community as it relates to our immigrant attraction and retention strategies. We're able to implement that in a more global aspect thanks to the partnership with New Canadians.
Thank you to New Canadians. For your support of local immigration partnerships. Today, our three panelists will be speaking to us on their experiences and reflections on the topic. LIPs and RIFs have many common interests and goals, such as attracting and retaining Francophone newcomers, combating racism and discrimination, promoting more welcoming communities for our immigrants, and bringing partners together to take action in response to critical or high-risk trends in the local context within our sector. Collaboration among RIFs, among LIPs, and between the two can ensure knowledge, promising practices, and resources are shared and used to their full potential. In this section, we will discuss how these collaborations can be optimized. We will first hear from Petrusia, someone I've known since the LIPs started and someone I learned a lot from. She's going to really bring the historical context and the how in how collaborations can form. I'd also like to recognize that very first LIP Day years ago that was led by Petrusia, Doug, Victoria, and others. Followed by Bridget, who will bring insights from a RIF and from the lens of 25 years of community development experience. Followed by Jodi, while being a new LIP, brings a richness of experience from a previous role and will help us consider the formula, the strategy and action for moving complex issues forward. Today, I encourage all of us attending to speak openly and have the courage to have conversations that matter. Never have there been more complex issues before us, and never have we needed each other more. Following the speakers, we'll move into Q&A. Please submit questions and vote on your favorite in Slido. To begin, I will turn the microphone over to Petrusia.
Good morning. I was asked to do this presentation not too many weeks ago, and I was able to pull together some of the history of the collaboration that exists in southwestern Ontario between the local immigration partnerships and the réseau Immigration Francophone. I am not going to say that again. I will say LIP and RIF because everyone knows who has to introduce yourselves. It's a very long acronym, and no one needs that. So just to get started, the Southwestern Ontario LIPs are some of the most established and some of the first established local immigration partnerships in Canada. And we do come with that original history of the funder and the communities not actually knowing what it was that a LIP or a RIF was. We honestly had a line of saying, go and find the needs of our newcomers and immigrants. And it was through the work of the first established LIPs that have developed the program to what it is and has changed it to what it is. If anyone's not familiar with Southwestern Ontario, I learned GIS because I really wanted to make a map that could change. So if anyone knows me, you know that this is something that I would do. But so this is Southwestern Ontario, and this is the geography of all the members. But it is unique because the reason the geography is this large is mainly because of the RIF. So the RIFs, if anyone knows much about them, know that there's, I think, 4 of them across Ontario, and they have much larger population groups and much longer geography groups than the RIFs. But these are who sits at our table. And I'll go a little bit at the beginning how it all started. So in the beginning, there was only 5 different RIFs. These are where the geography was represented from. So there was 5 different LIPs from Hamilton, Sarnia, Guelph, Kitchener, Niagara. I myself was not at this table yet because our LIP still didn't exist. But they came together and they said, none of us really know what it is we're doing. None of us really has an idea if what we're doing is correct. And that is kind of a scary thing when you have government funding behind you. You're not really sure what you're supposed to be reporting back to them. So they came together and said, let's connect. Let's share what's happening in our communities. Let's share what we're doing, and maybe we can learn from each other. So they came together, they decided that they will be doing their own transportation, they'll be coming together and just really absorbing the costs. LIPs are funded quite differently then than they are now, so that was actually a big commitment to this collaboration. So after a few years, they became the ipso facto people who knew what was happening, who had started directing, and more RFPs were coming out, and more communities started to join the collective. So then, after that, there was, over the next few years, more and more LIPs popped up in southwestern Ontario, so you can see that map is getting a little bit more colorful. I'm that teal blue, the long one at the bottom, unlike Lake Erie, so I'm situated almost right in the center. But I do remember one of the first, I think 2 or 3 months into the project starting, Sarnia Lip, so Stephanie, if you're on the call, thank you. She came over and introduced herself to us, and I remember we met her in a restaurant, and we walked in, and we went straight up and gave her a hug. We didn't even know if it was the right person, but we knew somehow, like LIPs, people who are LIPs, you can tell. You can tell the way they welcome, and that was absolutely a great help for us. Myself and the coordinator at the time were not from our region either, so we had a lot of community building, a lot of establishing to do, and it was very helpful for us to have that direction of saying, this is how you can do it, these are projects you can think about, and this is what we're doing, and maybe you can glean something or glean some direction. One of the most unique and best parts about LIPs was that knowledge of the autonomous nature of the work we're doing, and we really used learnings from each other to be inspired as opposed to taking cookie cutter solutions. And this table really allowed us to do that. There was a lot of, at this time, we were really just doing updates at the table. I was looking through old minutes, and I keep pretty much all the old emails and documents from when this project started. So since I've been on the project since 2011, Google is getting really mad at me at the amount of things I have, but we're working through it. But I was able to look at the old minutes from 2013. And at that time, we were talking about how to sustain the work of the LIPs when IRCC stops funding us. It was actually CIC at the time. And that was a reality that some of these older established LIPs were facing. We were talking about how can we have a social media presence with IRCC saying that we're not allowed to have a social media presence. And these are the types of things that we were able to navigate together because our communities were able to come up with unique solutions and to also slowly nudge IRCC at some of the changes that would really benefit the work that we were doing. We really talked about how we can work together, how we can collaborate. It was some really, really early stages of saying, what can we do more regionally? But up to this point, it was really just saying, this is what's working. This is where we're having issues with trying to navigate this vision that IRCC has for us. It was also in these years that we connected with Vicky at P2P. P2P already existed, but there was not a specific LIP day. The event that Melanie was talking about, we had, I think it was at an evening, we had everyone come together, and it was in 2014, and we sat in a big circle, and it was all the LIPs that were established at that time, and we just talked. And we decided that this was something that we really need across Canada, and it wasn't even that much across Canada, to be honest. It was mainly Ontario at that time. But we said we need a need for this, and it was through that realization that we encouraged P2P to have a day for LIPs, which is nice to see. So this has been running, I believe, since 2015. I checked the website, and it looks like this day specifically started in 2015. And it was through the Southwestern Ontario LIPs saying we need to share what we're doing locally in our region and extend that comfort and that support across Canada. Oh, sorry, those are the LIPs that came into the second phase. As you can see, there's still a few areas that aren't covered by local immigration partnerships. This is a little bit untrue. We did have some regions that had funding and then lost funding, and things changed a little bit throughout the year. But we started also at this time saying, how can we use this table to increase our professional development? How can we bring people to the table to help us understand how we're doing? As we're really forming the work, it's kind of like mini conferences. We were able to bring people in to help us how to measure impact, looking at marketing strategies with very limited budgets, or essentially IRCC saying that you're not supposed to be doing marketing, but how can we still get our name out and get the work of the LIP into the communities? Looking at how policy changes were impacting the work that we're doing. We also had like workforce planning board and trying to develop collaborations because workforce is a very key piece to a lot of the communities with immigration. We also were able to bring the Ontario, so MCI, Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration, sorry for acronyms for people who don't like them, but the Ontario Ministry was able to come and connect with us, and we were able to build supports across into provincial ties as well. But where our work really was solidified was when the Syrian refugee crisis rolled out. And I know a lot of LIPs really said that within their communities, that was the moment that the communities knew that the LIPs were important. And it was the learnings that we had at this table. The Southwestern Ontario LIPs are comprised of LIPs from very drastically different communities. We have some really large centers, a lot of very rural communities. A lot of us are funded, are housed either at municipalities or within social agencies. So we have a really wide range, and we're able to navigate and connect and talk about the differences and the strategies that we can do. So after this, in the last 2 years, I think 2 years is when we invited the last two LIPs with us. So now this is the full picture of where the LIPs are covered. There are still 2 regions that don't have a local immigration partnership in Southwestern Ontario. But we have a quite great coverage along this area. And it's because we have 2 new LIPs that just joined us. And I think that the gratefulness that comes from someone who is like, we have no idea what to do. Our work is so abstract. So having that connection with people who are already doing the work is always quite helpful. So hopefully we're supporting Grey Bruce and Brantford as much as we can. Grey Bruce is doing some incredible work, so it's really nice to connect with them. As you can, Deepika was here at the front just before. But during COVID, we did ramp up our meetings. So we decided to meet every month right at the beginning, because we said, what is the role of the LIP if we cannot be in our communities? How can we share the resources? We all know how expensive it is to interpret and translate pieces. So we came together and said, let's come together, let's share our resources. Windsor Essex created a knowledge sharing and training platform, and you can go and see that at their website. So if you check out the Windsor Essex LIP, you'll find a piece where there's trainings and online videos you can get to. We strengthened our collaboration with the RIF. There was, Windsor Essex specifically did a project with the RIF, but I don't know enough details, and neither of them are here to share, but it's, you should definitely reach out to them. We also were able to have some representation at regional tables. The Western Ontario Wardens Caucus developed an economic development strategy, and we were able to have immigrants as part of that key strategy. So we're trying to get the work into the larger arenas and past the scope of our small regionals. We also created some subcommittees. So I'm going to talk quickly about some of the subcommittees that now exist. So our Southwestern Ontario LIP transformed from a support network, and now we're actually doing the work. And I think that because of that support that was established, we were able to get to this place. So we have an employment subcommittee, a communications roundtable, racism and discrimination policies, and from that we collaboratively did the experiences of discrimination survey. And then we also had an attraction and retention subcommittee, which didn't get very far because it was very challenging to try and find the right framing to have that conversation at a regional level, so we kind of abandoned that one. But the employment subcommittee, we've come together and we've partnered with Will Employment Solutions to host webinars. And we were able to look to say regionally what is happening, how can we make it so that instead of getting 20 people at a webinar, we can increase our numbers, share resources, and find people that can speak to the various topics. So there's the list of the topics that we've done so far, and I think we're meeting in a week or two to do our next topic. And it's really been a great model. Will Employment Solutions is reworking their website, so unfortunately these webinars are not currently available, but they will be, and if anyone's interested, we can make sure you get connected to that. It's information that's quite timely and transcends geography, so it is a really great resource. The Communications Roundtable is a great subcommittee. A lot of the LIPs in our later years of establishment have created communication coordinator roles, and it is hard to do communications when you don't have very much money behind it. So this group has been able to connect, to share what they're doing, to share resources and come together on projects. Mark is sitting right here and he's the leader on this. So if you want to have specific questions about how they do that work, I really suggest you connect. I think you said you meet every 2 months, something like that? Every 3 months, there you go. the Experiences of Discrimination Survey is a partnership we did with Western University, and we had 8 geographies, and then Grey Bruce came in, and they've followed in our footsteps. But we were able to do a survey that surveyed people within our communities, and it was a statistically significant survey. They took information that exists at a national level and made it very localized. We were able to have cost savings because we came in together, and the facilitator gave us a little bit of a break. And now we're entering the second phase of that, which is more of a qualitative survey. So it's really nice to see the collaboration. We are able to come together and say, what are questions we need to ask? And you have more perspectives and more geographies at the table. You can get more robust information. And then where are we going? So we started with just a support network, and now we're looking at real, actual projects together. Where we're going next, I'm not sure. It depends on where the LIPs go, where the LIPs head. There's lots of great conversations that have been had these last few days about what is the current role of the LIPs and how is it changing. And I think that because the Southwestern Ontario group is not mandated by the funder, we are able to be really reflexive. We're able to say, how can we meet the needs of the people at our table? And we all form the agendas. So what is next is something incredible, because the work that the LIPs and the RIFs are doing is really making an impact on the way the country is welcoming immigrants, and it's really great to see that.
Thank you, Patricia. What a great start. Really resonated about the Syrian intake, how it highlighted how important the LIPs are. That was a really good point and something we experienced as well. Also that our work is so abstract that it really helps to collaborate with each other. And it's really interesting to see the subcommittees with employment, community, and anti-racism. And I know each of us have our own priorities. I'd like to now turn things over to Bridget. So Bridget will be zooming in today, and we'd just like to have this opportunity to hear from the RIF and someone that has such extensive community development experience. So I'll turn it over to the technical crew.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je vais faire ma présentation aujourd'hui en français et je sais que l'organisation de P2P a traduit mes slides en anglais, alors je pense que ça va bien aller. Alors merci à l'organisation de P2P de m'avoir invité à faire cette présentation. Je vais juste ouvrir ma présentation parce que je ne la vois pas moi. Je vais ouvrir la mienne, ça va. Je vais aller lentement pour la traduction. Alors, je trouve ça intéressant ce que j'ai entendu pour le centre-sud-ouest de l'Ontario, cette collaboration avec les LIPs, là, et aussi le lien avec le réseau. Alors, on va passer à la première slide, ou la deuxième plutôt, où est-ce qu'on voit la map un peu de l'Ontario. Alors, nous, en Ontario, on a 3 réseaux de soutien à l'immigration francophone. Je vais moi aussi les appeler les RIF pour le reste de la présentation. Alors, on a 3 réseaux de soutien, 3 RIF. Il y a le RIF de l'Est, le RIF du centre-sud-ouest et le RIF du nord de l'Ontario. Et en 2014, on a décidé qu'il fallait absolument trouver une façon, même si nos régions étaient très, très différentes, trouver une façon de collaborer ensemble puis d'avoir un message commun, des activités communes, parce que dans le fond, même si nos régions ont des réalités différentes, le dossier de l'immigration a des points communs très importants avec lesquels on devait se donner une force. Et on s'est créé dans ces années-là, 2014-2015, un logo commun. Alors, quand on fait des activités communes, maintenant, on a un logo commun que vous pouvez voir en haut de la slide, les réseaux en immigration francophone de l'Ontario. Prochaine slide, s'il vous plaît. Alors, importance de la cohésion, comme je disais tout à l'heure, on a des territoires complètement différents. Pour celles et ceux qui connaissent un peu l'Ontario, le nord, très rural, l'est, beaucoup plus francophone, le centre-sud-ouest, beaucoup plus urbain, et à d'autres niveaux aussi, c'était très différent, mais il y avait une importance d'avoir une cohésion et un fil conducteur parce que l'immigration francophone avait les mêmes défis ou on avait les mêmes objectifs par rapport à l'immigration francophone. C'était important pour nous, que ce soit au niveau des bailleurs de fonds, au niveau de tous les niveaux politiques, d'avoir un message provincial commun. Alors, c'est à ce moment-là, comme j'expliquais tantôt, qu'on s'est fait un visuel commun, réseau en immigration francophone de l'Ontario. Pour nous, c'était un premier pas vers ce qui pouvait être un tout pour l'Ontario. On est la seule province ou territoire à avoir plus d'un réseau de soutien à l'immigration francophone. On le comprend très bien de par la dimension et le nombre d'immigrants qui peut avoir sur notre territoire. Alors, voilà. Prochaine slide, s'il vous plaît. On a commencé en 2000, la première fois qu'on s'est fait un plan stratégique provincial, ça a été en 2018-2023. Alors, on est cette année justement en processus de revoir notre planification stratégique. Alors, dans le plan stratégique, on avait des grands axes d'intervention. On a déterminé ça. On a fait une tournée provinciale pour s'assurer que le plan reflète quand même assez bien la réalité au niveau de l'immigration francophone, mais aussi la réalité des différences qu'on pouvait avoir. Alors, dans le plan stratégique, nos axes d'intervention étaient le parcours d'intégration francophone, bien évidemment. L'intégration, toute la question de l'intégration au niveau de l'autonomie économique, c'était aussi un grand axe important pour nous. Puis l'inclusion sociale, culturelle et communautaire, toute cette question d'inclusion dans nos communautés. Alors la promotion pour les communautés et recrutement des immigrants dans la région. Alors de faire de nos régions, qui souvent pour les communautés francophones, souvent nos communautés se retrouvent dans des milieux ruraux, semi-ruraux. Puis c'est toute une réalité que l'immigrant francophone doit connaître et s'assurer d'avoir dans sa panoplie de choix quand il choisit de venir au Canada. Qu'est-ce que ça peut vouloir dire pour un immigrant francophone d'arriver en Ontario? Ça peut vouloir dire aussi, oui, vivre dans les grands centres, mais aussi de vivre dans des milieux ruraux, semi-ruraux, où il peut trouver son compte et une très belle vie aussi. Et c'est la réalité plus des communautés francophones de se retrouver dans ces milieux-là. Alors, toute la question de la concertation aussi était un axe d'intervention qu'on avait ciblé, qui était tout en commun pour un plan stratégique provincial. La mobilisation, la coordination. Et vous voyez les images un peu à droite de nos sommaires exécutifs de notre plan stratégique. On l'a en français et en anglais. Mais comme je vous dis, on va avoir toute cette nouvelle information-là, en tout cas mise à jour, d'ici le 1er avril 2023, parce qu'on est à renouveler notre planification, notre plan stratégique provincial. La prochaine slide. Chez vous, la prochaine slide est un peu... on a eu un petit problème de montage. Elle est très simple, mais c'est correct. C'est dans le respect, avec le plan stratégique, dans le respect des différences de chacune des régions, de réalités régionales. À partir du plan stratégique provincial, chaque région a développé son plan régional d'actualiser les axes d'intervention. Alors, on part d'un grand plan, mais dans chacun des RIF, on actualise les axes d'intervention de façon différente selon la réalité de notre territoire. La prochaine slide nous amène à discuter des travaux en commun. Alors, on est parti de se dire il faut qu'on ait des communications, des outils de communication communs. Ensuite, on s'est fait un plan stratégique provincial qui était en commun aussi, parce que toute la province a été consultée. Et à partir de là aussi, on a développé des techniques, des stratégies de travaux, des stratégies ou bien des projets en commun. Alors, on a différents projets ici dans les petites bulles autour des réseaux et c'est tout à peu près au même niveau. On organise aux 2 ans un forum provincial. Alors, l'année suivante, chacun de nous, on organise nos forums régionaux qui adressent beaucoup plus nos réalités régionales, locales. Mais aux 2 ans, on organise un forum provincial qui vient adresser encore une fois des éléments de notre plan stratégique et qui touche la province en commun. On siège sur différents groupes provinciaux, nationaux ensemble. Puis si un de nous participe à un de ces comités nationaux, mais n'en peut parler au nom des 2 autres RIF, parce qu'on est tellement ensemble et commun que moi, si je siège à un comité national, je connais assez la réalité du Nord ou du Centre-Sud-Ouest et on peut se représenter comme coordonnateur. On participe aussi, on a un comité aviseur avec notre organisme porte-parole des dossiers politiques provinciaux. Dans la francophonie, chacune des provinces et territoires a un organisme provincial porte-parole au niveau des dossiers politiques de la francophonie. Et nous, on participe les trois réseaux sur le comité aviseur en immigration avec notre organisme porte-parole, c'est-à-dire que c'est cet organisme-là qui porte nos dossiers politiques, qui porte les dossiers politiques auprès de la province surtout, mais aussi au niveau fédéral. Alors, on est membre actif du groupe des coordonnateurs du RIF du Canada, coordonné par la FCFA. Alors, on participe à chacune des rencontres. On est notre parapluie à nous, c'est la Fédération des communautés francophones et acadiennes du Canada. Et je lisais sur Slido tantôt, est-ce que l'OCACI a permis en Ontario, l'Umbrella, de rassembler est-ce que OCACI joue un rôle pour nous mettre ensemble et nous rassembler? Moi, je dirais que pour les RIF de l'Ontario, pardon, la réponse est non. On a surtout été rassemblés sous le chapeau de la Fédération des communautés francophones et acadiennes et on participe avec des activités des LIPs de nos régions à nous, mais OCACI n'a pas nécessairement directement joué un rôle dans cette question-là. Budget, de plus en plus dans les dernières années, IRCC libère des budgets pour qu'on fasse des activités à 3, comme les forums. On a un comité provincial d'intervenants responsables de mise en œuvre du plan. Ça, c'est pré-COVID, surtout parce que depuis la COVID, on n'a pas eu des rencontres de ce comité provincial-là, mais ça va reprendre. Ça va surtout reprendre pour mettre en place notre prochain plan stratégique. Alors, on va chercher les grands joueurs provinciaux. On a un comité aviseur. On se rencontre 2 à 3 fois par année. Et ça, IRCC a maintenant débloqué des budgets pour ça. C'est-à-dire que on peut avoir des sous pour se rassembler, pour organiser notre comité provincial, etc., etc. On a aussi des sous pour se rencontrer, les 3 réseaux. 2 à 3 fois par année, on se fait des rencontres provinciales où est-ce que on partage, on échange, on développe des techniques de communication, on met en lien nos agents de communication, par exemple, de chacun des réseaux travaillent ensemble. Il y a beaucoup de collaboration. Puis, on travaille aussi sur des projets ponctuels selon les points de convergence communs, mais aussi selon les besoins et conjonctures politiques. On a un dossier politique qui arrive sur la table en Ontario ou au niveau national. Rapidement, on se rassemble et on voit comment on intervient au niveau provincial sur ces projets-là. L'autre slide, s'il vous plaît. Un des projets communs qu'on m'a demandé de vous parler aujourd'hui, c'est la campagne de lutte contre le racisme et la discrimination qu'on a débuté en 2020, je pense. Alors, comment on a fait ce projet-là? On est allé chercher des sous. On a décidé que nous, on voulait faire une campagne de sensibilisation sur l'immigration, contre la lutte excusez-moi, campagne de lutte contre le racisme et la discrimination. Mais nous, la façon qu'on voulait l'adresser, c'était surtout de faire reconnaître le privilège blanc. C'est-à-dire auprès de la communauté blanche, prendre conscience que on commence notre parcours de vie à plus 10, plus 20, plus 30 et prendre conscience de ça nous amène à parfois éliminer certaines micro-agressions qu'on peut faire. Alors, c'est de la sensibilisation et c'est cette clientèle-là, surtout monsieur, madame, tout le monde qu'on veut toucher. Alors, il y a eu des discussions communes pour le grand projet. Il y a eu la collaboration dans la préparation, la diffusion, l'appel d'offres. On a organisé un comité de travail autour de tout ça. Organisation, on a fait beaucoup de rencontres de concertation, de validation et d'approbation du processus. Organisation commune, mais adaptée de nos régions selon le lancement officiel des outils. Ça aussi, ça a été toujours le point commun. C'était central, c'était la même chose. On voulait la même chose. On a tout adapté, la livraison de nos outils, les lancements et tout ça à nos régions. Encore une fois, la diffusion des outils a été faite selon et les partenaires de chacun. La prochaine slide, s'il vous plaît. Alors, ça, c'est des exemples d'outils. Un des outils qu'on a développé, c'est des bandes dessinées, des comic strips de 3, 4, 5 images qui révèlent un message quand même assez puissant. Le premier que vous voyez ici, ça parle du privilège blanc. Ici, c'est l'adjoint du directeur. C'est une petite histoire autour d'être l'adjoint. C'est des petits comportements ou des micro-agressions qu'on peut trouver, par exemple, ici dans le milieu de travail. Et ensuite, on en a un autre qui est titulé « L'habit ne fait pas le moine ». Chacune de nos petites comic strips est accompagnée d'une description de qu'est-ce qu'elle devrait livrer comme message. Alors, on peut les utiliser avec n'importe quelle clientèle, des écoles, les enseignants l'utilisent avec les étudiants et tout ça, pour juste faire prendre conscience que parfois on est privilégié, puis on doit le reconnaître pour laisser la place à toute cette belle diversité qui s'installe avec nous dans nos communautés. Prochaine slide. On a aussi développé des capsules vidéo. Ici, c'est juste des images de nos capsules. Quand on va sur les sites des 3 réseaux de soutien à l'immigration francophone, en fait, sur notre site, je vais parler pour notre site dans le coin en bas à gauche, rscfeo.org. C'est à cet endroit où vous pouvez trouver tous les outils de la lutte contre la campagne de lutte contre le racisme et la discrimination. Et vous allez avoir toutes nos bandes dessinées et nos capsules, nos 3 capsules qui sont un rassemblé de témoignages sur ce qui peut être du racisme et de la discrimination et comment c'est vu du côté des personnes racialisées et des personnes blanches. Alors, on a fait de la promotion, diffusion, utilisation des outils par nos membres. On a fait ça de différentes façons. Nous, on a fait un lancement officiel. Ensuite, on a fait le lancement de certains outils dans la Semaine nationale de l'immigration francophone l'année dernière, etc., etc. Il y a aussi un comité qui est organisé des 3 coordonnateurs de communication des RIF, les coordonnateurs de communication des 3 RIF, pour vraiment mettre en place, s'assurer de la diffusion et l'utilisation au maximum de ces outils-là. La prochaine slide, moi je suis rendue à la slide des projets à venir. J'ai peut-être omis de dire à un moment donné qu'il fallait passer. Je suis allée à celle des projets à venir. Alors là, notre projet sur la table des 3 réseaux tout de suite, c'est vraiment d'établir cette année notre plan stratégique sur les 5 prochaines années. Alors, c'est plus la révision du plan stratégique, l'évaluation du plan stratégique qu'on a en place, la mise à jour de celui-ci, puis de le faire s'assurer que le plan représente bien les années futures pour les 5 années futures de travaux pour les 3 RIF de l'Ontario. Alors, ma prochaine slide, c'est évidemment à vos questions. Vous avez mon courriel, mon adresse, si jamais vous avez des questions plus en particulier. Là, je vais laisser la parole à l'animatrice pour voir comment on va gérer après ça la période de questions. Je vais aller voir quelques questions sur Slido. Puis s'il y en a qui sont directement adressées, je vais me préparer à les répondre après la 3e présentation. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Bridget. When we move into Q&A, I'll be reading the questions out, and there'll be a chance to respond. As someone whose child has experienced racism, I really appreciate your focus on anti-racism and everyone else who's doing this important work. What really stood out to me was the talk about the focus on inclusion in communities. What I didn't realize, what I find really interesting to reflect on, is that often RIFs are working in rural and small centers, and of course there's differences in work between small and large center contexts. And just that reminder that LIPs across Canada, we have that flexibility to respond to needs within the local context. And even though these RIFs are in the same province, each region has its own distinct priorities. I think we all recognize that in our own work. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jodi Bucholtz for our third panel.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here today to talk a little bit about a project that is still fairly new. I am the manager of Local Immigration Partnership of Lanark in Renfrew County, and so the project that I'm going to describe today is the Eastern Ontario Regional Immigration Strategy, or Attraction and Retention Strategy. This really did start with a really simple idea. In our area, skilled and unskilled labor shortages are a major concern. Our municipal leaders, economic development partners, and business owners recognize that there is an opportune time, and now being that time, to focus on immigrant attraction and retention that can play a pivotal role in helping to address these shortages. Our community partners in our region, so we're just outside of Ottawa for context. We have the 2 counties just outside of Ottawa. Our partners are ready, but they need a functional plan to move that willingness, that commitment forward. And so recognizing that, I also started to think about, we're not unique. Everybody's experiencing skilled and unskilled labor shortages across Eastern Ontario. There's a lot of similarities between our regions, even though we have these beautiful little, invisible silos that are around us. And so I am fairly new to the LIP world, and so with that, I thought, touching on a little bit about what Nora Loretto touched on yesterday, I thought, would it be weird? Would it be uncommon to work together with some of the LIPs in my area on an immigration attraction and retention strategy? And so I thought, maybe, just maybe, we can collectively establish a regional immigration recruitment strategy. So IRCC put out a funding call around their community planning, and so I first went to our advisory council, our LIP Lanark Renfrew Advisory Council, to say, do you see value in us approaching this from a more regional perspective rather than a localized perspective? And there was no issue with that. They saw the value in that, so I was like, step 1. Then reached out to IRCC with this community planning call out to say, do you think that this is something that IRCC would get behind? And again, it was like, yes. I was like, wow, this is really easy.
this is super easy, maybe a little too easy. And then I reached out to the partners in my immediate IRCC catchment area to say, are you interested? Do you want to partner on this? And again, it was like, yes, super easy. But that was the easiest part. And again, I want to touch on what Nora touched on yesterday that really resonated with me, that collectivity is a necessity these days. And so with that, our partners in this project. So I reached out to the Eastern Ontario Training Board that's based in Cornwall. I reached out to the RIF de l'Est d'Ontario, St. Lawrence Rideau Immigration Partnership of Leeds and Grenville, and those are the partners, again, in my immediate catchment area, IRCC catchment area, that said, yes, we all believe now is an opportune time to establish that holistic regional immigration strategy. And so we also realized and recognized that this needs to be a really practical implementation plan that's going to guide the collective efforts for each of our areas at a municipal level, at a county level, at the leadership level in our respective areas, because we need to have that level of buy-in so that we're working towards a unified goal of attracting, but retaining our newcomer populations. And so the way that we have this project set up, LIP, Lanark, Renfrew, that I have the privilege of leading, we are the project lead. So we have the responsibility of project management, budget oversight, project deliverables. So really, we're the logistics. We're gathering consensus because we're really approaching this as a co-design project. Then we have the amazing project partners who are working as community liaisons, gauging local receptivity. They're working on the knowledge transfer within each of the respective communities. So they are the community empowerment facet of this project. Then we have an amazing project consultant who is really focusing on those community consultation sessions. And of course, report writing, going to establish where are there commonalities between our respective regions. I'm just realizing, too, that I forgot to mention that Ottawa Local Immigration Partnership is also a partner. I'm so sorry for forgetting that. Where our respective areas have crossover, have similarities, but also have those differences, because we can approach this project that each region is going to walk away with a localized immigration strategy that meets their needs, but we're also approaching this as a regional strategy. So where is that crossover? Where are we stronger together to partner on initiatives over the next little bit? So the goals, the plan that we have established and where we are, I mentioned early on in the presentation that we're very early days of this project. So we have been through the understanding the current landscape. So we've conducted a comprehensive assessment of what the current state is in each of these respective areas. What are the policies? What are the initial research findings that were previously conducted that we can leverage moving forward? And again, it's important to recognize, too, that this is, as I mentioned, a co-design process. So there is consensus reaching along the way for each of our partners. Everybody has to walk away feeling good about the effort and the outcome of this project. We are currently in the assessment stage, so we are conducting our community consultations through a series of focus groups with community stakeholders to identify those barriers, to identify the opportunities, recommendations. And we've also co-developed a survey to capture a larger sample of our stakeholders, both from the English and Francophone perspectives in our respective areas. Within the community consultation phase, we're also going to be collaborating with some of the leadership from each of our regions to conduct a bit of a strategic design think session to help identify what the respective objectives are in each of the regions. So again, we want to engage the leadership in each of the regions along the way so that they have ownership over this plan once it's created. So that's where we are right now. Then we're going to be soon moving into that prioritization. So we're going to be identifying some of those high-value recommendations. leveraging the insight of the current state assessment and developing an inventory of opportunities. And I will say, I have collected a lot of inventory of opportunities here at the P2P conference this week, so thank you for that. We're going to be assessing those opportunities to identify not only those high value, but what's scalable, what's sustainable, and what is a tactical recommendation for the goals in each of our partners' regions. Then we're going to be bringing together our pilot partners, and we're going to be, and some key stakeholders from each of the regions to review the recommendations and almost treat it as an a la carte, if you will, where the leadership in those respective areas, the lead partners, can pick and choose what's going to work in their region. So no two plans are going to look the same. It takes a little bit more effort, but I think that is what's going to really push this project forward. Then lastly, the action part, which is the fun part. So we're going to define that path forward by developing a 3-year plan that really is that roadmap to support the implementation of those prioritized recommendations. And so that roadmap will support each region at the various government levels, so municipal level, county level, provincial level, maybe in some cases, to execute those recommendations through that detailed action plan. Because the LIPs, the RIFs, we can be part, but we can't necessarily lead. So we need to have that buy-in from our leadership in our areas. That is it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Jodi. In advance of coming here, we had a discussion, and when I spoke of the wealth of experience coming into this role, she'd worked in a very strategic role around building a plan to get ahead of changing demographics for post-secondary. The formula she spoke on was anticipating the issue, not waiting for the issue to appear, but anticipating the issue, putting the plan together, defining the roles, and taking action. The formula for moving issues and solutions forward. So we're going to turn over to our Q&A now. A number of you have been voting on the questions. The first two are similar, so I'm going to read them both together. Bridget, will be turning over to you, and then we'll open it up to Patricia and Jodi to put their comments in as well. So the question is, can you share the list of questions for your experiences of discrimination survey? Where can we access that? And what are the next steps?
So every community has hosted their experiences of discrimination survey on their own website. So you can link out to any of those communities who have participated. So St. Thomas Elgin, ours is stlip.ca. London Middlesex had it, Oxford, Grey Bruce, Sarnia. I'm going to miss a few. Oh, Grey Bruce, I don't know if Grey Bruces have shared their responses yet. Yeah, so connect, or if not connect with me, Hamilton, sorry. We can also probably share that on Basecamp. I don't know if we have yet, so we can get that out on Basecamp. I also did want to mention, I said previously, I did say Windsor wasn't here, but Michelle is in the room. This is the problem with very large conferences. So Michelle from Windsor is here, and you can connect with her on that project.
All right, our next question is, have the Ontario LIPs, RIF, leveraged their umbrella organization, OCASI, to connect and coordinate with each other?
We personally haven't. I don't know if anyone from Southwestern Ontario, have you connected with? Yeah, it's for frontline service providers, so no. There was a question up there that wasn't addressed. So someone asked about what we're doing in our community with the results from the experiences of discrimination survey. So there are some different things that have come out. I know that Huron and Guelph have used it to inform a campaign that they did some promotion about anti-discrimination. 5 of the communities, and Grey Bruce, 5 of the communities are also going into the next phase. So the first phase was a quantitative survey, which gives you a lot of really great overview information, but doesn't really dig deep into what is happening. So we just finished ethics review, and we're rolling that out in our community. Some of the communities also are doing with a different partner, so they've partnered with University of Guelph, so they're in a little bit different phase as well. But some of the things that we're looking at, we focused on experiences of discrimination within employment, within the community spaces, and between police. And so we're hoping that we can better define what's happening in our communities to put in and implement some change. We're also looking and trying to find a way for people to report their experiences of discrimination, what the community would like to see in a model like that, what would be helpful, and then we can hopefully go about establishing a way to better track this and not wait until we have enough funds to do a survey to understand what's happening.
And the next question is, has your collaboration in Southern Ontario helped with the engagement of provincial departments or agencies, and maybe in what ways?
The only thing I can think of is we did have, when we were having people come present, we did have the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration connect with us. And because of our collaborating, we were able to support one another to access funding for the municipal immigration information online. So there's a lot of communities within Ontario that were funded to put up a website, and because of the partnership at the table, we were able to leverage that. They stopped funding it many years ago now, it feels, but that was one of those really concrete things that came out. But other than that, we haven't seen any other ministries connecting with us that way.
Thank you. So some more things to reflect on to take as the next step. What are some of the best strategies to engage and maintain collaboration between LIPs and RIFs? And are there projects that work better than others?
Do we want? I don't know if...
Again, because I'm fairly new to the lip world, I think when I started that I reached out to some of the LIPs in my area and asked, is there an Eastern Ontario or a regional subcommittee, and was surprised to see or hear that there wasn't. And so I come from post-secondary educational background, working in a rural community college, and so I'm very much so the type of person that you get the work done by reaching out to others and saying, how can you collaborate, how can you help, how can we do this together? That's mutually advantageous. And so I know when I first started to ask those types of questions, I believe Hindia was with Ottawa, a local immigration partnership, was one of the first that I connected with, and she said, well, we've been thinking about starting a kind of a regional group, and I was like, let's stop thinking, let's do it. And so I think that this was a really, the project that we're currently working on is almost a jumping off point for really cementing that collaboration that we see in Southern Ontario, and to expand that to be a little bit more Eastern Ontario-esque.
Moi, je voulais juste rajouter là-dessus que nous, à l'Est de l'Ontario, on veut justement voir, au fil des années, ça a été plus, moins, la collaboration avec les LIPs selon les projets, selon la disponibilité, mais nous, au RIF, on a un intérêt à voir comment on peut rassembler les LIPs de l'Est de l'Ontario. On veut leur parler, on veut voir justement comment on établit une espèce de plan d'action régional de l'Est de l'Ontario pour appuyer les LIPs, justement, comment on fait un peu ce qui est arrivé au LIP de Lanark avec Jodi tantôt. Jodi vous l'expliquait un peu. Nous, on veut vraiment trouver des façons d'appuyer les LIPs au niveau de l'immigration francophone. Chacun sa niche, chacun sa façon de faire, son expertise, et puis on veut travailler ensemble, mais le faire de façon beaucoup plus coordonnée, un peu comme le centre-sud-ouest aussi. Alors, je sais que dans le nord aussi, dans le nord de l'Ontario, il y a des rencontres entre les LIPs et le RIF du nord de l'Ontario. Il y a des belles choses qui se passent là-bas aussi. Alors, on va essayer d'explorer ces modèles-là dans les prochaines semaines, prochains mois.
I know within our Southwestern Ontario network, there have been some more community-specific collaborations that have happened between the LIPs and the RIFs, and it's because sitting at the table, we were able to have those connections, and the LIPs are able to leverage their networks within their regions. So specifically, there's been things happening in Niagara region, and also in Windsor that can come top of mind of specific initiatives that have happened. And I think that because there are so many more LIPs, and we are more integrated into the wider communities than the RIFs are able to do because of their size, we can really leverage those relationships and say, how can we create more Francophone initiatives locally? And so that's, I think, something that I've observed has been working really well for our region.
Thank you. That was a great, very thorough response. Let's stop thinking, let's do it. I liked that. And that reflection on the coordination and the special topics that give momentum to the work for each of us. One of these questions here I think is better served for our National LIPS Secretariat who are leading the day tomorrow, Paulina and Doug. The question is there a current national list of LIPs and RIFs and key contact information to help foster communication and collaboration? I would just encourage you to reach out to Paulina and Doug while you're here today, and if you're staying tomorrow, this would be a topic of the conversation. I'll move down to the next question, and that is to follow early approaches to sustaining LIPs and work to upscale the overall project. What are current needs and steps for sustainability of the LIP ecosystem?
This is a tough question. I think LIPs are working hard they've worked hard to prove themselves to IRCC, and IRCC seems to have committed to their work. I think the next steps is really doing the cross-sectoral proof of concept and making immigration and integration something that is important not only for that one ministry, but across ministries, because the way that we settle and grow our populations have impact across all those agencies. So I think trying to establish the joint importance of the work is really critical. I don't know.
I would add to that, I know that we've heard some other LIPs and RIFs this week that have talked about, finding other funding lines so that there's not such a dependency necessarily on IRCC funding. And I think that certainly is, it's an approach that we're looking at, and we're constantly applying for other funding streams so that we can upscale. We have lots of big plans, but we're a small team, as are a lot of you in the room here today. And we've also started to really partner with our local government on co-authoring different applications for funding as well, because they're starting to really, really pay attention to what we're doing and what we're saying, which is a great spot to be. But now we just need a little bit more money and some more people.
Wonderful reflections. If Bridget wants to weigh in, I'll just mention that idea of that cross-sectoral proof of concept across industries. I absolutely agree with. I think that's very important advice for all of us. And coming in new, looking at ways to diversify funding and that attachment to local government, and also the business case. Labor shortages are Canada-wide. Our work in that space does prove the concept of the LIP's ability to collaborate and hopefully move some action on that specific topic. Bridget, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I'm okay. I agree with those comments. Yeah.
Merci. We have time for 2 more questions. This question is, I'm going to go to the one for Jodi, and we'll go back to Petrusia. Jodi, who is the consultant working on your strategy? Did they have previous experience with the sector? How has that relationship been?
So a shout out to Lockhart Facilitation, which is based in Queen's University. So some of you have probably worked with Eric Lockhart. He is exceptional, and he has some experience in the sector. He is by no means a subject matter expert, but he comes with a wealth of knowledge and ability to learn quickly, I would say. We have worked with him before on projects over the last number of years with Algonquin College, who houses Local Immigration Partnership of Lanark and Renfrew County, and so he was one of several that we went out to tender for the consultant, and I had the utmost confidence that Eric would be able to deliver. Don't all start emailing him right away. He has to finish our project first. But yeah, I think that he and I believe I speak for my partners whenever we say everybody's very pleased with the outcome thus far. And I think I answered that question.
Thank you. Petrusia, how does the Southwest Ontario group find out when a new LIP has formed in the region? How does that initial connection happen?
It changes depending on what's happening at the time, but most recently it was, I think, project officers who let you know that Southwestern Ontario LIPs exist. So we have kind of made a stir at the IRCC level, which is kind of nice, and they know that it's a great support network. So we absolutely recommend others to join and create a network that you can get that support from.
Perfect. Yeah, network support, the collaboration between LIPs. Again, that reflection from Jodi on the current issues and trends of our day, the labor shortage. I know the National Construction Association was meeting here in Ottawa. One fellow stopped by, and they're talking labor shortages across Canada, labor shortages that are impacting the ability to build in response to the growth that we're seeing. So again, some of those priorities that we're able to support. Question for each of us. Some LIPs do not have settlement at their table. Why would that be so?
I have no idea.
I would love to have settlement at our table. We are, so Lanark and Renfrew County are two of the largest geographic counties in Ontario. We're very vast, but we don't have critical mass when it comes to newcomer population. So it's a little bit of that chicken and egg scenario. We did have a pilot project for kind of a decentralized settlement service that was funded for 3 years, but unfortunately was not continued with funding. So it's very hard to not have settlement services in your region when you are actively trying to grow, and hopeful that when we do hit critical mass, that we'll have the privilege of having settlement services.
So I think it's not that they don't invite them to the table, it's they don't exist in this region. So it's a distinct.
Very distinct. A distinct difference.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that settlement services are on LIP when there's settlement services on the region of the LIP. I think in my region, they are sitting on those LIP, but not sure. Francophone settlement workers in my region, in my organization, they are sitting on their LIPs table.
Thank you. Our other question related to, is there a way for the LIPs to collaborate alongside you on the RIFs projects, such as your comic strips?
Mm-hmm. Well, we will be glad to have some collaboration if there's some needs to the use of our... Je peux parler français, j'oublie que je peux parler français. Il peut certainement avoir collaboration pour les gens qui veulent, mais nous, on n'a pas eu de financement pour traduire. Alors, s'il y a un consortium ou un regroupement de LIP qui voudrait utiliser et avoir les sous pour traduire tout le matériel, pour l'avoir en anglais, ça nous ferait plaisir de partager. C'est financé par IRCC, ça appartient à tous. Alors, on pourrait collaborer pour faire traduire la documentation. Et si vous avez besoin de la documentation en français, elle est disponible à partir de notre site web. Vous pouvez utiliser tout ce qui existe déjà. C'est là. Mais nous, on n'a pas eu les sous pour traduire le matériel.
Thank you, Bridget. So she's encouraging people to, yes, partner alongside her if you can translate the material. They didn't get funding for the translation of English. And again, it's funded by IRCC, and she said it can be shared to all. Our next question is a good question. It's that constant question related to how we incorporate newcomer voices into our work. The question is, how are you ensuring that the newcomer participants who are part of your research and engagement are inclusive of hard-to-reach, equity-seeking populations?
I assume this is to do with our discrimination research, and it is being done through the university. So it was done anonymously. So it was done through, similar to what Vicki was presenting yesterday with her other survey, but it was phone calls in the region. And then we had people fall into 3 different categories. And the categories for that research were visible minorities, or racialized people, and immigrants. We put them into one category. The Indigenous population, and then white non-immigrants as the 3rd control group. So people were first screened, and if they continued on, they would go. So it's, there wasn't anything specific to try and get those hard-to-reach people. In fact, there's a good chance that we probably missed people, but this is, I think, the age-old question of our work, is how to connect with the people that aren't connecting. And unfortunately, we just have to use the tools that are used within the university when you're doing an ethically reviewed study, and we didn't really have much say in changing that.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if anyone...
I would just add that we are mindful to ensure that a proper cross-section of our newcomer population is around the table, and so we actively send out strategic invites to make sure that there is those who are part of a hard-to-reach newcomer population in our area, that they're part of the conversation. Does it always happen? No, not necessarily, but we are very mindful to ensure that we're inviting, sharing information, and offering opportunities to connect outside of maybe a dedicated meeting time or something like that, so that we can get feedback from that group of newcomers.
I think I can also add, with the second phase of our research, the posters, or the way that we're recruiting people, has been translated in some of those languages of some of the groups that we know either have lower levels of English, and we would really want to be part of this study as well. So we did strategically choose some of those languages to kind of try and offset some of that challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, a number of LIPs and surveys will have preset questions to identify the who they're pulling into the surveys, and can analyze it based on responses by racialized groups, by those that are visible minorities. Another question here, and it'll be our last question, and it's kind of counter to the question related to engaging settlement and having settlement at the table. I think yesterday Angelique from the City of Moncton spoke really well to this, and if you would like to hear more, I would recommend reaching out to her. I think she might be here today, I hope. But for us, if we could just reflect for a moment on our experience in including municipalities to leverage and increase their involvement in addressing gaps and needs in their community, in our communities.
With our project, we certainly, I think between our 2 counties that we have 30 municipalities, and we certainly have some municipal champions that are at the table, eager to communicate and eager to listen and contribute. And so we are really actively leveraging those municipalities, and kind of approaching it as, if you build it, they will come. So I've learned that our municipalities are somewhat competitive between each other, and so if there's one municipality that gets a leg up because they have participated in one of our initiatives or some of our training, or fill in the blanks, that we soon hear from other municipalities of being like, oh, well, we heard you're doing this. It's like, yes, I emailed you and called and left a message, but I'm happy that you're ready to have this conversation, and I'm happy that you're trying to keep up with your neighboring municipality. And so leveraging those municipal champions, I think, is the key to growing that involvement.
Thank you. So we're right at 11:30.
Oh, sorry. I just want to add something for a municipality. We know that it's very, very important. On sait que c'est vraiment important. C'est crucial, la participation des municipalités. Mais nous, en Ontario, on vient de rentrer dans un tout nouveau défi. On vient d'avoir des élections municipales il y a quelques semaines, 3 semaines. Alors souvent, quand on a des élections municipales dans nos provinces comme ça, c'est tout à recommencer. Parfois, c'est positif, parfois, c'est négatif. Alors, l'engagement des municipalités varie souvent à cause des individus. Alors, nous, on est à l'étape présentement de refaire nos relations, nos partenariats et tout ça, là. Fait qu'on est un peu aux dépens de ces élections-là, mais en fait, nous, ce qu'on dit, c'est excessivement important. Le projet Société Immigration ne peut pas réussir si les municipalités ne s'engagent pas avec nous pour faire le travail. Alors, c'est tout ce que je voulais rajouter. Merci.
Thank you, Bridget. So we'll wrap up this section. Just a summary from the municipal discussion that the municipality leadership is critical to our work. The municipal election means we're beginning from scratch in many cases, and that healthy competition is helpful. All right, I'll turn it back over to Vicki for our next section. Thank you.